The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
Right, Neil.
Yes. Hang on, this is the other way round. It's usually Kev.
Open up ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. All right, hold on. Yep.
And type in roast, as in the roast chicken.
Yeah.
The FujiCast podcast.
The FujiCast. I think I know what's going to happen here, but I haven't done this one. Roast the FujiCast podcast. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, we'll both get two different things, but read out what yours says.
The FujiCast, huh? The podcast where you guys manage to turn the simple task of pressing a shutter button into a philosophical journey of life, art, and the meaning of existence. It's like listening to two photography gurus who got lost on their way to a Zen retreat and accidentally found a microphone. Today we'll discuss the feeling of the shutter click. Yes, because that's what everyone tunes in for. The sound of peace as you fumble with your settings for the 83rd time. It's getting worse, Kev. It's starting to really roast us. And then there's the audience interaction. People send in these profound questions about photography, but you guys turn a simple, what's the best lens, into a 45-minute existential debate about the soul of a photograph. Oh, yeah, but at the end, just one sentence here, Kev. But hey, at least you both have the perfect faces for podcasting.
Well, your ChatGPT likes you better than me. Shall I read out
read out what yours said.
Mine said, the FujiCast, hey, the podcast that's like an hour-long commercial for why you should shoot Fuji and ignore every other brand out there. It's like Neil, James and Kevin Mullins are on a mission to convert the world one slow-paced chat at a time. If you're looking for dynamic energy and cutting-edge takes, you've come to the wrong place. This is the podcast equivalent of two blokes having a quiet moan over a pint.
Well,
the real highlight, those in quote special guest episodes that feel like a sneaky excuse to stretch out the runtime. And don't even get me started on the Q&A segments. Nothing like hearing the same question about switching from Canon to Fuji for the millionth time. Maybe one day they'll surprise us and discuss something revolutionary, like how not everyone shoots Fujifilm sees themselves as an artist, sipping artisanal coffee while editing in a dimly lit room.
I tell you what, Donald, I don't. What do you think about that?
Don't be rude.
Exactly. I think they're very rude about us. Not nice
The
at all.
FujiCast.
I wonder what it would say if you wrote roast chat GPT. Hang on. Roast chat GPT. Oh, chat GPT. The AI that's supposed to be this all-knowing, cutting-edge assistant, but sometimes feels like it's running on Windows 95. Oh, it roasts itself, Kev. That's funny.
I just put in roast Kevin Mullins, the photographer. I won't read it all out. It says, Kevin Mullins, legendary documentary wedding photographer and master of capturing moments as they never happened.
Well, it's got a sense of humour, Kev, hasn't it? 10 out of 10 for a sense of humour. That's not bad. As a line, Kev, that's not bad.
It goes on and says, Kev, mate, we get it. You're allergic to pose shots and flash.
It would worry me now, though, if it said something like, and dividers for your camera bag. Then I'd feel like it's camping out in your room. Really, I would feel like it's camping out.
Yeah, there's nothing in there about camera bags.
Right, well, welcome to the FujiCast. I'm not quite sure what to say after that. You and your questions. We'll try to gently convert you. Look into my eyes, not around my eyes, into my eyes, into Fujifilm cameras. Ooh. I don't think it's done its research very well, Kev, because we do talk about other brands as well, don't we? Well, not often.
We do.
But not. Anyway, your questions to click at fujicast.co.uk, or you can send them via Facebook into our Facebook group, where it's not always questions, actually. Sometimes it's statements. I'm sort of fearing what to say now, Kev. I'm being very careful where I tread with what I say.
I wonder if ChatGPT has access. It must be able to learn from podcasts as well. It must have access to podcast archives.
If it were
a great source for it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, yeah. Look at all that stuff it would have online. I know that it learns about you the more information you give to it. I sometimes speak to it. I know you're about to say, "You sad old git." I saw a video. One of the YouTubers we follow. I can't remember his name. I like him so much. He'd done something interesting about it where he was talking to it, and I thought, oh, I'll try that. I was on my way to a wedding, and I started talking to it, and I had probably a half-hour conversation. And you're going to say, "What? Are you told it your name's in your dog's name and stuff?" I had this conversation, and the very next morning, I said, "Hey, ChatGPT," and it answered me, and I said. Something about going out for a walk, and it said, I think you might get a walk in today with Barney because it doesn't look like it's going to rain too much. Are you going to go up to Greenham Common?
Yeah, no. Brilliant. I love ChatGPT.
I found that a bit spooky that it even, well, obviously I told it where we like to walk, so it was a fairly decent guess, but I'm not. When I say spooky, I'm not spooked by it. Actually,
it's like having, like I always say, it's just like having another person who works with you, like a PA, research assistant. I call mine Bob. Mine's got a name, and it says to me, "Hey, in the mornings, when I start working with it, it's like, all right, Kev, and it's like, what did you do last night?" It's like that, literally having somebody there.
Are you allowed to call it a name? Does it respond to another nname?
Yeah, I call it Bob. If you go into the settings, you can tell it what you want to call it.
Oh. And you can choose a voice, can't you? My one has changed. It started out as one voice, became another one day, and I've not changed it back since.
I don't use the voice. I don't use the audio bit.
Oh, do you? Right. So
I'm not that advanced.
All right. Well, Kev, if I can do it, you could do it. When I come over to look through the cupboard of doom, I'm gonna introduce you to that button, and you'll have another new friend, Kev. It'll be talking to you. What about that? Right, before we start, we got a book today, haven't we? So what we have? What's the book?
We've got a great book. It's called The Great Bars of New York City.
I have that one, so at least for
my favourite topic.
Yeah, I can look through the book as you're going through the pages as well. And thanks to Pic-Time for sponsoring this program, keeping us here. We both, myself and Kev, use Pic-Time, pic-time.com. It's where we store the pictures after we shoot our jobs, commercial jobs or wedding jobs, portrait jobs. You can put art stuff up there as well, and it's also a pretty good repository. For your previous work, so you can use it as a backup, can't you, Kev? Really? So it's the ultimate backup, as well as a great place to show your work. And I like it when it comes to galleries because you can choose to hero images and guide your clients through the story that you see. Of course, they can change it. They can elect to change bigger pictures to show Auntie Marjorie or whatever, and Uncle Bob. But you start out by showing them the story that you want them to see as your work.
I got my biggest ever digital download order this week. Somebody from one of my last weddings, which in fairness was rather wealthy set of people, let's just say, and somebody must have been a guest because it didn't have the same name as the clients, ordered a digital download of every picture in the gallery, and it came to quite a substantial amount of money because I only give the digital downloads free to the clients.
Every picture. How many did you shoot?
Every picture.
How many?
Well, there would have been 400 pictures, maybe, thereabouts.
Get my calculator out. 400. I know that you charge £18.50 for every picture.
No, I don't.
Kev, you just made 7,400 quid.
No, so I do charge £5 for a digital download, though.
Do you?
So you can do the maths. Yeah.
Kev, that's not bad at all, is it?
I know, brilliant. That's the only. I mean, I've had occasionally, not often. Occasionally, I've had people purchase digital downloads. And I'm surprised they don't just go to the clients and say, "Can I have a copy of that?"
Well,
but in this case, nope. And it was a cha-ching moment.
Oh, happy day!
Pic-Time did all of the heavy lifting for me.
Well, you didn't have to do anything, Kev. You just sat there on your white Y-fronts and waited for the cash to come flowing in.
In fact, when it happened, I was stood outside my house watching the carnival go by. And then my phone beeped, and I was like, "Ooh, look at that!"
Yeah, you bet, really? Because he didn't have to shoot a wedding that day. He just waited to have all the money come in from one that you'd already done.
That is an exception. I'm not saying that everybody who uses Pic-Time that will happen to, but it facilitates it, and it can happen. So, FujiCast is your discount code for 1 month free of Pic-Time.
Yeah, and if you, like Kev, make that much money, at the next hop event, the drinks are definitely on you.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, we should call it. Yeah, that's a good hop because I couldn't even hop to the hop last time.
No.
Next time we have an event at the Hop, I will make sure that both my legs are in working order.
Well, actually, you owe us the drinks being on you for the next one. So
yeah,
get another big sale in, Kev. Shall we launch into some questions? Now, we on the pop-up that's just gone, the Patreon pop-up just gone, we did an appeal for questions for patrons. Because patrons get a chance to ask questions as well, and they can be deeply personal if they like as well. But we could do with some more as we head into autumn and winter now. It's normally a better podcast season time. In the summer, Kev, I know it's not like this in the southern hemisphere, but in the northern hemisphere, everybody's out. They're sort of chasing butterflies or eating ice creams or whatever they're doing. So it's never the greatest time for podcast questions. But now we're in autumn, Kev. There is no excuse. We would like your questions to keep the old question thing rolling so that ChatGPT can roast us a bit more about what we do. So what sort of stuff do we want questions on, Kev? Well, give us an example.
Well, anything that makes ChatGPT like us more. Do you want to send us in questions about your Sony cameras? That's absolutely fine.
Yeah. ChatGPT will just say they've lost their way. They'll find a new way to roast us, this thing. So any questions on social photography? It can be how you feel when you're making your photographs. It can be maybe some sort of creative brick wall that you've hit that you don't know quite how to sledgehammer it down. It could be technical. Kev does tech. There should be a t-shirt for that. Kev does tech. Technical questions. It can be wedding questions. Whatever, Kev. Just send them in to click@fujicast.co.uk or the Facebook group. Or the show becomes only 5 minutes a week. One of those. Do you want to start with Facebook? Because I think you've got far more going on in there than in my email inbox.
Well, I will start. We do have plenty of questions that we, from over the months that we still need to get to. But I've had none, not one.
So what do you mean? You've been holding those questions back in some sort of folder?
There's plenty that we haven't got to, but there's no new ones, at least as far as I can tell, because the way that Facebook does its when you click newest, it mixes all in the replies and everything. So it is a proverbial pain in the backside.
Right, yeah.
So I'm just generally going through and looking for stuff now. And that's what it will be. So we're going to start with one that did come in 3 weeks ago from Paul Oscillard again.
Well, we like Paul.
He keeps us going.
Well, I tell you what, he's like a researcher, is Paul Sillard. He makes sure that we've got stuff.
Yeah, and the question he's got is for posed headshots and portraits, especially outdoors where it's bright. Do you recommend battery-powered studio flash like the Godox AD600 or continuous LED lights like the Godox SL200? Reason I'm asking is that I have the LED lights already for video work, but I now have the opportunity to buy a friend's AD600 and AD400 flash units. Well, I've got some thoughts.
I know what yours are going to be. Don't use them.
No. I've done it. I've done it with both, in fact.
Oh, you've used the flash systems. I was going to say if I could choose one of the two at the moment because of the travelling I'm doing, I'd probably choose a little flash setup because they're really quite small and they pack a lot of power, don't they? I saw some beautiful pictures that Sean Tucker, I think he'd used his AD system for when he went to, I think it was Namibia, and in the sun, balancing the light there, this thing just ate the shots for breakfast, and I thought that looks like a proper potent little system. But I didn't realise you'd used both. You said.
No. So I don't think I might have the AD600 somewhere in the cupboard of doom. But I do have my continuous lights, obviously, the, what are they called? Those...
LEDs, Kev?
No, the big one. You know what I mean? The big, massive one.
You mean the aperture, don't you? Where have you gone?
I went to look, yes. Aperture. And as I was running away to look, you said the word I was looking for. Aperture, yes.
Have you got the one, is it the 120D you've got? You've probably got the bigger one because somebody bought a big order for you and...
I got the I don't know. I can't bother to go back and look.
No, don't.
I've got two of them. One's a bit older and one's a bit newer.
Okay.
But I use them in the studio. But for the outside stuff, and I've done this a couple of times in the past. If you want that like studio look, I think what you're referring to that Sean Tucker's done, although I don't think I've seen the pictures. but that real studio look, then you will need a flash that allows you to have super high flash sync speed. And essentially the technique is you expose for the ambient light and then pop the flash, and you get that beautiful, so you can get the sunset in the background, but then well exposed, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. And you can do that with the X100 cameras, by the way, pretty easily because of the leaf shutter. You can do it with pretty much any flash. But for the other Fujifilm cameras, you would need, and I think the AD600, the Godox, does have super fast sync speed. So you can get away with it. But if you're just looking for something that looks natural, i.e. not that kind of studio look, then LED would be fine.
Well, and it also depends upon the shutter speed that you're using, because if you've worked in the studio, most people, I suppose, start out at 1/125 at f8 on ISO 100 or somewhere in that sort of region. So if you're looking for shallow depth of field shots, then you're going to need to do a high speed sync. But you're not going to need to do that if you're working, at f5.6 or something like that. In which case. And that you'll need something with a bit of power, and I think those units, those Godox units, are fantastic, Kev.
Yeah,
small units. So was that? I thought he had another part to his question, or did I dream that at some stage?
No, that was it. That was it.
Would you do another one while I'm trying to find one in my inbox here?
Let's go for, I'm scrolling. John Anderton says, it is no secret that one of the criticisms leveled at Fujifilm cameras is autofocus performance that lags behind competitors' cameras. And he's absolutely right. There is a criticism that's leveled at Fujifilm cameras about autofocus performance. I think it's unfair, but there you go. It's true. He's right. From a practical professional photographer's perspective, how much of an issue is autofocus performance for you guys? I'll be doing some band performance photography soon, which will also involve capturing skaters in movement. I'm actually tempted to hire a Canon or Sony camera for the day. Am I worrying unnecessarily? And what advice can you offer to bring out the best in my Fujifilm X-T5 kit? I've got two of them, 23mm f1.4, 56 1.2, 50-140 f2.8. I envisage using the 50-140 2.8 for most of the day. There we go.
Well, I don't have an X-T5. I use the XH2S. And I did, though, do a dance set at a wedding about 2 weeks ago. And there was enough ambient light in there, Kev. I thought, hang on, let's see what the iFocus is really like. I don't use it too much, actually. I usually use flash when I'm approaching those situations later on in the evening, and I have to say it was pretty good. I've just done the full cull. I've looked more closely at the pictures, and I thought, not bad, actually, not bad. And using the I've put the iFocus on a button so I can switch in and out of it, and I thought it was wholly decent, Kev. Although, and ChatGPT is going to like us just a little bit more now because we can compare two systems. The other week, probably the week prior to that, Kev, you know that I was working with Paul as a second shooter, because you've worked with Paul as a second shooter a lot, and he has gone to the dark side. He put an A7R4. Is that? Am I getting my letters and numbers the wrong way round? I think that's the right way round. Anyway, and he said, use it and tell me what you think. And so I wandered around the room for a while in decent light. I'll admit it wasn't sort of apples for apples in terms of the example I've just given. But I don't know how it did it. It almost seemed like that very early Canon camera, the film camera that was able to read your retina where you looked and it focused on stuff. Don't know where that tech went, actually. I think it just went into Apache helicopters. But it was almost like it was reading my mind, Kev. I have to say I was really, really impressed. Really impressed. I'm not sure if that helps, John, because he wanted us to tell him one system or another.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have used Sony cameras, I have to say, but I don't use them. I don't know enough of them to make an informed decision. But the crux of the first part of his question, criticism leveled at Fujifilm cameras, autofocus performance that lags behind competitors. That may be true, but and I say this all of the time to people that ask me this question. especially with the X-T5 and the latest kind of Fujifilm cameras, if you if you're struggling with autofocus, you're not using the camera right. You've not got it set up correctly, or you're using slow lenses or something. There is no reason for it not to be quick enough for the vast majority of stuff. Okay. Now, that doesn't, I'm not saying that Sony or Canon or Nikon have not got faster focus acquisition technology in their cameras, but where I struggle is when you need that and why you need that extra, thing. So I've used X-T5s and, well, I've used like even older Fujifilm cameras to photograph fast-moving sports, rugby, football, judo, running, and I get everything I need to get. That doesn't mean that if I was using something else like a Sony, I wouldn't get more of what I need, but I certainly got everything I need. Most people I come across, and I get a lot of emails like this through my website and stuff, is it's not focusing fast enough, etc. And they're basically just using the camera wrong. They don't understand how the phase detection works. They don't understand the focus acquisition settings in the Fujifilm cameras, and they're just not using it right. So to answer his question, I think you'd be absolutely fine with the X-T5. 50 to 140 is perfectly great. I use that for most of my sports stuff too. If you do want to go to my website, John, and look at some of the judo stuff I did very recently, a lot of that was with the 56 1.2, and it was absolutely fine. Yeah. I even used the 90mm f2, and that's that's not the fastest focusing lens in the system. So yeah, I don't think you'll have any particular problems. But that's not to say the other systems are not faster. I just, certainly for weddings, I cannot see any reason why you would need something that would be even faster than an X-T5, XH2S, that kind of stuff. I just don't know how or why you'd need that, unless you are the kind of photographer, and this isn't a criticism, there are plenty of people who shoot like this, who basically, put it on continuous focus and just shoot the shit of the day and cherry pick the images at the end. Yeah. In which case you probably will get more mileage out of a Sony or Canon or something that has very, 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 very rapid focus acquisition. I can't see any reason for weddings personally why you would need to do that. And like I say, it's not criticism. For sports, for music, I think the low light performance, especially if you're not being able to use flash, etc., on the Fujifilms, they're not full frame sensors, so you've got that benefit. The backlit sensors in the later technology, so in low light they're excellent. Focus acquisition is much better in the newer sensor cameras than it was in X-T3, X Pro 3, etc. In low light. So yeah, ultimately I think you'll be fine. But if you're not, don't blame me.
It's Kev's fault. The lens, by the way, that I was using on that Sony was not what I think is a particularly fast lens. It was 2.8 Tamron 28 to 75mm, so it was a zoom lens, and but it was still very, 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 very good. That's a weird focal length, 28 to 75. I'll tell you what, if it was 28 to 85, that would probably be, because it wasn't bad glass at all. That would probably be the ultimate lens for most wedding photographers, most documentary ones anyway.
Okay, so here's a question for you.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people, Paul included, move from Fujifilm to Sony.
Yeah.
And a lot of them do come back again, in fairness. Not all of them, obviously. Well, some of them. Let's just say some of them come back. But people like Paul is a good example, who's used Fujifilm for the last, I don't know, however long he should be shooting weddings, 5 years or whatever, and has now switched to Sony. Is that something that would cross your mind now you've used his Sony cameras? And if so, why? What would be the benefit?
And if so, Neil, here's the door.
No, not at all. Absolutely not. I've always said, I even used to say when I was an ambassador to Fujifilm, if something comes along that's better for my clients, then I will be switching. But nothing ever did. So,
well, I was wholly impressed with it. I liked it. I enjoyed using it, but I only had it for 20 minutes. And I don't think that's enough of a real world thing. Look, it was really great for that stuff, Kev. I was really impressed by the way it was hunting out eyes. But I don't really work in that way for 95% of my day. So it's not enough of a reason for me to think, oh, I'm leaving, because I don't work like that. And if I look back at my images from my weddings, I'm really happy with the focus. It's not causing me any trouble. And I like the cameras. I like the weight. And
I think there's a bit, and I can say this now because I've quit, so I don't care. But I think there's a bit of a problem in the wedding world. Okay, so I'm not talking about sports or anything like that now. I'm talking about the wedding world, where people are obsessed with face and eye detection and speed of focus, etc. And who wants a picture where the priority is on getting a sharp eye, an eye in sharp, rather than thinking about the shot, thinking about the composition, story, the next picture in the sequence, that kind of stuff, which you can't do if you're just shooting at 15 frames per second. You just can't. Right. And I think that's a real thing, a real kind of
Isn't that the whole gas thing though, isn't it? Where once upon a time, you'd have a camera that would last you. You'd say, right, picked up my, I don't know, Nikon F6. There's a solid, great camera of the past. I still have mine, actually. And you'd say, right, that's it. I've probably got that camera now for the rest of my career. It doesn't work like that now, though, does it, Kev? And when stuff's put in front of you, this one will do that one, but that'll be even faster as people will jump in the same way that they would not necessarily show faith. I mean, my dad here's an example. My dad I think, pretty much all his life, with a few exceptions, drove Vauxhall cars. And he was loyal to the brand. He liked the brand. He stuck with it. And I think that's the way photography once was. And I don't think it is now. I think people have the same loyalty towards camera brands. Not everybody, obviously, but they can have the same loyalty towards camera brands as they have for cars. Oh, does that Ford do that better? Yeah, all right, I'll switch to Ford next time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right about that. People, obviously I have a brand loyalty because of my history with Fujifilm. But like I said, I would, if something had come along when I was shooting when I was an ambassador for Fujifilm, that was, better for my clients and my business, I would have switched. The people that I know that have kind of flipped over to mostly Sony from Fujifilm in the wedding world, it's not necessarily because of gas. It's not necessarily because they love having newer tech or better tech or shinier or opening the boxes, all of that kind of stuff that gets our
things going,
adrenaline going.
Okay.
It's because they see other people using it, and they like what they see, and perhaps there's a little bit of fear of missing out on something that
FOMO.
I'm absolutely not saying that when you switch to another brand, you will not get better results. Absolutely, you may well get better results, and in which case, good, stick with it. But I just in the wedding world, at least, I can't get my head around why somebody who has an X-T5, for example, for weddings thinks I need something that can shoot more frames per second and has perhaps a quicker autofocus. I literally can't get my head and understand that. Now, if you were using a X-T2, for example, and it's time to buy a new camera, yes, absolutely, you might go, I fancy a change. I'm going to go for the Sonys because, the new Sonys are a lot better than the X-T2. Absolutely, 100%. But, if you're on the current track of Fujifilm cameras, I just can't see it. And, I might be missing something. I don't know. But there you go.
We'll do the book in a second. Let me do one from Steve Shreve here. Steve, I apologise, and you'll be wryly smiling now because this email has been hanging around for a little while, and you'll be saying, well, mine's been there, Neil. Why didn't you read it? It was all to do with backup. I'm departing with my family for a 7-day cruise to Alaska. Very nice, too. Lots of in-town exploring, hikes, glaciers, waterfalls, lakes. I did opt for a whale-watching excursion too. I'll have the X100V to make photos of the close-up stuff and also the landscapes. Everything else, it's my binoculars to make memories. I quite like that phrase, Kev.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that as well.
Since I'm vacationing without my laptop, for the first trip since the 90s, I made an exception to my no new gear rule. I put together a thrifty man's NAR box, computerless SD backup. I purchased 2 new Q-File Hub AC750s and attached a 1 terabyte SSD that I had spare. See, Steve keeps up with all this stuff. The file hub is also a battery pack, so all I have to do is plug in my SD card in the USB hard drive, turn it on, click the transfer button. Once the SD LED stops blinking, you're done. Bob's your uncle, as Kev would say. There's an iPhone app which allows me to confirm the transfer. Just sharing something that might be useful for other minimalist travellers or hikers. Curious to hear what others would use for their travel backup workflow. What would you use, Kev?
Well, so he mentioned the Gnar box. I call it Gnar box.
Gnar. Gnar.
But it's another one. It's another one of those silent words, silent letters. It's called Gnar box. Put a Gnar on the front of it, and if it's there, I'm going to read it out. Otherwise, it kills too many trees. So, the Gnar box was a very useful little device, as he says, like a. Basically, you just plug the memory card or the USB cable in, and it would just suck all the pictures off. And there was an app and all that kind of stuff. However, they have gone out of business. They didn't last very long. It was a good idea, but it didn't really live for very long. So, I don't think you'll be able to get a Gnar box, not a new one anyway, anywhere. You can get similar things now. So I think Lacey do something where you can just plug a USB into it or a memory card, and it does a similar thing. It has a tiny little LCD that you can, press a button and say take all the pictures off. And if you're not taking a laptop, 100%, that's a good way of doing it. I probably, if I was doing that, depending on how many pictures he's anticipating on taking, I would take something like that for sure as a backup. But I would probably put in 512 gigabyte memory cards into the camera, so they don't get full filled. So then you've got both, just in case the Gnar box falls off the boat and gets eaten by a whale.
What it could be? What's a whale that's what's that one with the Gnarly one? I can't think of the one. That would have been really good had I been able to think of the whale then. But never mind. Good advice. Right, bookity book. This one is close to your heart, Kev, isn't it? Great bars of New York City. This would be a project to work on, wouldn't it, Kev?
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? I love it. We've had a couple of books from James and Karla Murray before, and we've talked about them before. They're husband and wife, and they're basically architectural photographers based in New York, so they make these books. They did the shop fronts, do you remember? And kind of all those lovely delis and everything.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I've been to New York probably 5 or 6 times in my life, and on every occasion it's been for either running a workshop or a Fujifilm thing or something like that. And I've never been with my family, so that's been good, because it means that when I'm not doing my Fujifilm stuff, I wander around the bars of New York City, which I love, because the bars of New York City are brilliant. And whilst I love London pubs and English pubs and all of that kind of stuff, there has to be something to be said about New York City and the way that they kind of make their bars, especially the interiors. So I'll just read a little bit of the blurb before I pick out some of my favorite pictures. In a city of over 8 million people, New York City's bars, pubs, dives, speakeasies and cocktail lounges provide respite from the relentless pace of daily life, offering an intoxicating blend of camaraderie and ambience. They've even helped to influence major world events over the years, from Florence's Tavern being turned into George Washington's official headquarters during the Revolution, to the uprising at Stonewall Inn, which ignited the queer liberation movement, to the King Cole Bar at the St. Regis Hotel, which features a mural by the 20th century painter Maxfield Parrish.
A mural or a mural? Mural.
I always say mural. Gemma always says that. Gemma always picks me up on that. I always say mural. She says, a mural does not go on a wall. Yeah, it does. Anyway, the book is a great big, lovely hard-covered book. And obviously this is a pretty niche book. If you're perhaps if you're from New York or you just like that, looking at especially the interiors of these places, then this is for you. And the photography is it's well thought out but simple. So we're not looking at artistic studio lit shots or anything like that. We're looking at the clean interior. So they obviously get access to the places before, as when they're shut and they're all cleaned up and everything like that. But what I love about this book is that, you have a page talking about the inn itself. So the Stonewall Inn, for example, on page 78, there's a page talking about it. You get one clean shot of the front of the venue. And then the next pages are what fascinates me. The insides of these are lovely places, all clean and decluttered of clientele at this point. And what I've always loved about pubs in New York, well, actually in a lot of America, is the wooden bar tops and the opulence, if you like, of the decor inside. And it's just absolutely amazing. And they're right in the introduction where they say that it's you get camaraderie and ambience. I've never once gone into a pub in America and by myself and not really and not chatted to whoever was sat next to me at the bar. They all feel like a welcoming place. You go back out onto the streets and then you feel a little bit less comfortable perhaps, but in the pubs themselves, great. I absolutely love it. I remember going to one, and I've been looking for it in the book, and I don't think it's in here because I can't remember what it was called, but I can remember what it looked like.
Yeah.
And it was they basically sold Guinness and what's the American one? Bud Light, and that's it. That was all they sold. Spent a few nights there. It was very nice. So yeah, I just think it's great. There's the one.
Just before we move on, I was looking at the Stonewall one, and one of the pictures of that particular bar. The original sign that was posted by the New York City Police Department I guess this would have been outside the building. This is a raided premises, police department. They managed to get the sign that was stuck outside. They've put it now as one of their main pieces of art.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of kind of nuances as well. So if you go to page 170, you've got the please don't tell. So it just says PDT, and it says PDT stands for please don't tell. It's a speakeasy cocktail bar hidden behind a vintage phone booth inside an East Village hot dog joint called Criff Dogs.
Oh, there's a different door that goes in.
Yeah, there's a different door that takes you into it, right? So you would never notice it. You'd walk past that and think, oh, I don't need a hot dog. But then turn the page and look inside.
Wow, look at this place. That is a weird place, but brilliant.
Small, by the looks of it, but with this old bear, stuffed bear on the wall, paintings. Down in the basement, you can tell because of the stonework. But then again, look at that beautiful wooden bar and the stools. Oh, it's just lovely. Absolutely love it. And those old-fashioned telephone boxes that you used to see in the films, where they'd go in and close the door behind them downstairs.
Here's a place we'd like, Kev. Milano's Bar on page 115. But if you go a couple of pages in, they've got a frame of what the prices used to be. So food-wise, spaghetti, 30 cents. Done. Thank you very much.
Look at that. Yeah.
2 eggs, any style, 30 cents. But what a bar that. I love it. Look, it's full of just memorabilia on the walls. That's fantastic.
Amazing, isn't it?
You spend a week just looking at those frames.
Milano's dates back to 1880s and is and occupies an exceptionally long and narrow space. Yeah. That reminds me of some of the places in Tokyo, I have to say.
Does it?
But yeah, you can almost visualize the regulars there. Friday night, 6:00. Some of they've left work. It's pouring with rain in New York City. They've come in. They've shaken their jackets down, put their umbrellas by the stand. They get their dollars out, put them on the table on the bar, and then they start chatting to the same people that they chat to every Friday night in the same place. I love it. I can see the people, even though they're not in the pictures. Yeah. I can see the people in these photos.
What a lovely book this is. Who's published it? Prestel. Yeah.
It's Prestel, yeah. So, I think it was released on the 7th of September. Right. So you'll be able to get it on Amazon and all that kind of stuff.
Perfect.
Or you can go to Prestel. So it's called The Great Bars of New York City, 30 of Manhattan's favorite storied drinking establishments. And you must read the stories of the pubs. It's not just about the photos. Yeah. And the other thing that I love about this book is the authors, of course, are James and Karla Murray, who we know about.
Yeah.
But the words are written by somebody called Dan Q. Deo, which I think is an amazing name. Dan Q. Deo is a culture writer for the New York Times.
There's a lot of culture in those places.
Yeah, great. Love that book.
I found
that one that's coming home and sitting on my coffee table. Well, we haven't got a coffee table, so
if you did, it would be there.
If I did, it would be there.
You can afford one now. You've earned all that money from that print sale. Just go home one day with a big coffee table.
Well, I can afford to fly to New York.
Oh yeah, you can go to the real thing.
Yeah.
I found what that whale was, by the way. It was I should have done this at the time. It was a Gunnar whale. But sadly, narwhal is not spelt with a silent G. Otherwise, that would have worked. I always thought it was. Anyway, have we got one question? Can we do a QQ from Facebook?
Yeah. Okay, here's one. David Jennings says, I have seen YouTubers using fancy prism, swirl filters, and even copper pipes to give various effects. Is that something you've ever tried before or used on a wedding?
I used once and once only one of those. Yeah, I know. One of those triangular prism block thingies. I think I bought from something like, one of the big photo shows or something. I used it and I thought, what's all this about? And that was it. One use gone. I thought, that's not me.
It is definitely not me, and I've never done it. But I have, for people who you just spend time doing creative flash and all that kind of stuff at weddings. Yeah. Then I've seen some amazing things done with it, and I know that Jerry Gahonis used to use it back in the day, and people like that. So and I've seen some really cool things taken using the reflection from an iPhone or a phone, I should say, just a phone that's off.
Reflection. Yeah.
So I mean, if that floats your boat, go for it. And they're really cheap, aren't they? Those little devices, copper pipes and all that kind of stuff.
Enjoy it. Although you don't want to get caught with a copper pipe on your front seat as you're driving home from a wedding. What's this one for, sir? Any plans with that? No, officer. It's what I use for photography. Oh, they're all saying that. Right, that's it for this week, Kev. We are done for another couple of weeks. Now, this is, really, it's a challenge for you. Challenge. Get the questions in, please, to the Facebook group, or please send some into click@fujicast.co.uk, and I will be forever thankful. Kev, a couple of things. You've got your video thing coming out soon. You've got a nice little... there's a way to sort of start getting excited about it on your website, isn't there? I noticed a video went up the other day, didn't it? So,
the course. Yeah. I wondered what you were on about then. You're the only person who's noticed it, I think.
Oh, well, surely not. I don't believe that for a moment. So,
I buried it in the menu, but it'll be a while yet before that's ready.
You're filming it the way you did talk about it a couple of weeks ago. You're filming it at the moment, aren't you? Surely.
Yeah, I'm in the process of doing it. Yeah, so I'm going to do a big old, probably 20-hour plus online documentary wedding photography and the business of wedding photography course. So if you do go to my website and find the link under online courses and put your name down for pre-interest, just interest, not committing to purchasing it,
you'll get all the news. And I've got my little podcast, my new 1000 Weddings podcast, which I'm going to cheekily mention atop that as well. 1000 Weddings, available on all podcast apps and things. Right, that's it. Get your questions in, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, and Patreon pop-up, of course, next week. See you soon, Kev. Bye!
Bye-bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.